Let's talk about something that gives most people a shiver down their spine, a brown envelope from HMRC landing on the doormat. You open it, and there's a tax bill you never saw coming. It feels like game over, right? But what if I told you there's a little-known rule that can sometimes feel like a get-out-of-jail-free card in the UK tax system?
Just imagine. The bill inside is for £5,000. That's a huge, stressful amount of money. But as you're trying to figure out what went wrong, you realize the underpayment only happened because HMRC made a mistake. They failed to act on information you sent them ages ago. So the question is, do you still have to pay up?
Well, here's the good news. You might not have to pay a single penny of it. And to help us navigate this fascinating and, let's be honest, pretty crucial corner of the tax world, this entire discussion was developed with the absolute experts over at My Tax Accountant. They're going to guide us through. So what is this powerful tool we're talking about? It's something called an Extra-Statutory Concession. Now, the name sounds a bit complicated, but you can just think of it as a fairness clause. It's basically a way for HMRC to take a step back and say, you know what? The strict letter of the law says you owe this, but actually enforcing it in this situation would be completely unfair.
Okay, so here's the official definition. An ESC is a practice, and that's a key word. It's not a law. It's something HMRC uses to deal with weird anomalies or genuine cases of hardship. It's specifically for those moments where, because of an administrative slip-up on their end, someone ends up paying too little tax by accident. And just to give you a sense of how long these have been around and how specific they can get, here's a little fun fact for you. One of the most famous old concessions was about luncheon vouchers. For years, there was a tax concession of up to 15 pence a day on them. So you see, these aren't just for massive, complex cases. They can cover all sorts of little things to just make the system work better.
All right, so how does this actually work? Theory is one thing, but making it work for you is what really counts. So let's walk through a real-world example. We'll follow a freelancer from London. Let's call her Chloe. She's just been hit with one of those unexpected tax bills, and we're going to see how she can use a specific concession called ESCA 19, which is the big one for tax arrears caused by official errors.
So here's Chloe's situation. A P800 calculation lands on her doormat. It says she owes tax from the 2023/24 tax year. She's completely baffled because 2 years ago, she got a new contract, did the right thing, and sent all the details straight to HMRC. The problem? Well, they got the information and then did nothing with it. They never updated her tax code, so this underpayment is 100% down to their delay.
So what's Chloe's plan? First up, she checks the dates. ESCA 19 generally only kicks in if HMRC tells you about the arrears more than 12 months after the end of the tax year they got the info in. Chloe's bill is for 2023-24 and she got it in November 2025. So check, she clears that hurdle. Step 2, she digs out her evidence. Those emails she sent are absolute gold. They're her proof. Step 3, and this is the big one, she has to get her head around something called the reasonable belief test. Now stay with me here. This next step is where most people go wrong.
Right, this reasonable belief test. This is the heart of the whole thing. And it's not black and white. It's not enough to just prove HMRC messed up. Chloe also has to show that it was reasonable for her, a regular person, to believe that her tax was all correct. So how on earth does HMRC decide what's reasonable? Let's take a look. So what are they looking at? Well, HMRC's own internal rulebook says their officers have to look at the whole picture. They'll think about the size of the bill, they'll look at whether they sent her confusing paperwork or maybe no paperwork at all. And this is so important. They consider her background. Chloe is a graphic designer. She's not an accountant. She's an expert in fonts and colors, not P45s. And get this, that last point is a direct quote from HMRC's own manual. If it's a close call, they should always give the taxpayer the benefit of the doubt. That is a massively powerful piece of information.
So, armed with all of that, Chloe is ready to write her claim. She can use clear, direct, and factual language, something like this. She's not getting emotional or angry. She's simply stating the facts. You had the right information, you failed to use it, and therefore, under your own concessionary rules, this debt should be written off. It's confident and to the point.
Okay, here's a quick pro tip, and honestly, this is a golden nugget. When you send in your claim, you need to add one more sentence. Explicitly ask HMRC to suspend collection of the tax while they review your case. This stops the chasing letters and prevents them from trying to claw back the money through your tax code before they've even decided. It's a huge step for your peace of mind. So what happens if HMRC just says no? It's really important to remember that applying for an ESC isn't a guaranteed win.
These are concessions, not laws, and how you interpret them can be very different from how HMRC interprets them. And when the stakes get really high, these disagreements can end up in a full-blown court battle, like one case involving £4 million.
And that brings us here, to the Royal Courts of Justice. This is where the true meaning of a few words in a tax concession document gets debated and decided. The case of Murphy and Leonard versus HMRC is a perfect, high-stakes example of just how messy these disagreements can get.
So let's break this down. On one side, you had the taxpayers. Their argument was simple. The concession they were using, ESCB 18, didn't say anything about a time limit, so there shouldn't be one. On the other side, you had HMRC arguing that, well, the wording implied a 6-year time limit that existed in other bits of tax law. The entire £4 million argument came down to the meaning of just a few words. So, who won? In the end, the court sided with HMRC. They looked at the whole context and decided that yes, the 6-year limit did apply. Now, what's really interesting about this isn't just who won, but the lesson it teaches all of us about how these concessions actually work.
And here is the crucial takeaway from all this. An extra-statutory concession is not law. It's not a statute passed by Parliament. It's a policy, and its exact meaning can be argued in court. The taxpayer has to prove they fall clearly within its terms, and as we just saw, what seems clear to you might not seem so clear to a judge. Every single word matters, which is exactly why getting expert advice in these situations is so vital.
Now, this brings us right up to the present day, because it's so important to get that these rules are not frozen in time. They're part of a living, breathing system. And following announcements in things like the 2025 budget, the landscape is always shifting. Just look at this timeline. You can see the whole life cycle. A concession might be created back in the 70s to fix a specific problem. Then a major court case comes along, like the Wilkinson case in 2005, which changes the legal boundaries. That then leads to reviews where HMRC starts withdrawing or changing concessions, and with every budget, like the 2025 one, the policy can be tweaked again. The ground is constantly shifting under your feet. So, after all that, what do you really need to take away from this? If you ever find yourself in a situation like Chloe's, let's just boil it down to the most important points and, crucially, where you can turn for help. Okay, key takeaways. Number 1, a scary tax bill from an HMRC mistake is not always the final word. Number 2, ESC A19 is your best friend in that situation, but remember, it all hangs on that reasonable belief test. Number 3, document everything. Every call, every email, every letter, keep it all. 4, words matter. As that court case showed, success is never guaranteed. And finally, number 5, the rules change. What was true last year might not be true today. And of course, I have to say this, all of this information is for general guidance. It's here to help you understand the landscape, but you shouldn't rely on it alone to make big financial decisions. So that leads to the final, really important question. After listening to all of this, are you feeling a bit unsure about your own tax situation? Or are you maybe already in the middle of a confusing dispute with HMRC? If the answer is yes, or even maybe, then before you do anything else, you really must consult the tax experts. For professional, up-to-the-minute advice on tax concessions, handling disputes, or frankly, any other tax issue, get in touch with the team at My Tax Accountant. You can call them on 020-8570-8531, or you can drop them an email at info@mytaxaccountant.co.uk.